Hey, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday, January the 24th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and I'm going to try to move through this fairly quickly, but only because I have an appointment this afternoon. I've got to leave early, so I don't have a lot of time today, but today was a good trading day, and there's some important things that I want to point out to you here, and so I'd like to spend a little more time. I wish I had time, but the first thing I want to show you is if you remember us talking yesterday, hopefully you caught, we had a trading range yesterday, and I talked about us trading up into that trading range, and here's the price action trading up into to that trading range. And if you remember me telling you, there was a chance that, hey, we may, when we start up, we may make another equal leg. And I mean, the same things that work on the small chart works on the large chart. And if you look at that leg, there it is right there. You slide it over here, and lo and behold, we came so close to having a perfect measured move today. And all that is one leg up, it's a little correction, and then a second leg up. And then we sold off. And so just wanted to point that out first of all. Because somebody actually asked me about that. Do I ever go looking at the chart? You don't necessarily have to do that. It doesn't matter. The price action was all here today. You can still find the same setups, the same reasons for getting in the trade. However, when you can find multiple reasons for a place for the market to reverse, you got to pay attention to that. And so I pointed out, but what I will tell you that I think is just as important is it's hard enough to watch a single chart and to read the price action and to do it properly. But when you start reading multiple charts, you will get confused, and you won't know whether you should be going short or long or sitting still or running or just closing your chart. So I'm really hesitant for people to look at multiple charts, but I don't have any problem if you can back out on your current chart and look at the bigger picture and see what's going on. And that's pretty obvious right there you got a leg up, you got a correction, then a leg up. And most anybody should be able to see that if they look at it. And you're not looking at multiple charts, and you can still see it. So anyway, I wanted to point that out before I said anything else. Let's talk about the trades today. The first trade set up right here. The way I got my trend line was I drew it off these tops first. I drug it down. And what I was originally, I knew I was looking for something either here or across these closes. But it doesn't matter how you drew it. You still should have found that first trade right there. You can see that. Doesn't matter if I left that right there or if I drug it down off these closes. And you still see it, but I tend to think it was off these closes right here, because you see price action came into play again over here. So that leads me to believe that this was the actual trend line right here. And it might have even been right here. That still works right there. And actually, I even like that better now that I put it there. And, that way you've got a break here, but then you've got some other breaks right here and a move to a new high. So, but a lot of people asked me today, hey, we didn't get a trend line break and we sold off. And no, we didn't get a trend line break, but I think we got a huge overshoot right here. And sometimes that overshoot is, it kind of acts as the stimulus to the trend line break. And you see we had the overshoot, then we went to a new high and sold off. But I've seen us get an overshoot and just sell off from there and not even try a retest. So that's possible too. And as hard as this might have been for some people to trade, I had one trader, I just saw his email a few minutes ago and I answered him back. He told me, he says, hey, we had this huge move. He says, I didn't get any of it. He says, I feel worthless today. He said, I feel like I failed. Well, let me tell you about that. What that is if you walk away from a trading day and you didn't lose money, count your blessings, because you could have lost money that day. But let me take that one step further. Those are the emotions of fear and greed working on you. The fact that you feel like you failed when you didn't make money, but yet you didn't lose any money, that is fear and greed, and that is the greed portion working at you. You felt like, hey, I got to make money. I should have made money. And what that will do is force you into doing something dumb, and you will lose money. And the worst thing that it'll do is tomorrow you'll get a setup just like this, and it'll look exactly the same, and you'll get in, or you won't, or you'll get in because you didn't this time, and tomorrow it'll run right up here and turn around and start going down, and you'll be thinking, but yeah, but it did this yesterday, and you'll keep hanging on, and next thing you know, you entered here, and next thing you know, prices are down here against you, and it didn't do what you thought it was going to do. That's what fear and greed does to you. And I'll be honest with you, that is what makes trading so hard. Learning to spot the setups, and if you just relaxed and you go with it and you follow the price action, it's really not that difficult. But I don't want to make it sound easy. It isn't, because you do have to understand the price action. But what causes most people to lose money is the fear and the greed, and you can't let it get to you. So, again, keep that in mind. But let's talk about the trades, because I don't have much time. But we had a channel, an obvious channel here, and regardless of how you drew it, it still kind of works out to be the same. But now that I put that there, I believe that's it without a doubt right there. And I actually had it down here across the closes earlier. But now that I moved it up and looked at it, I like it better there. And that does give you these breaks here. That send you on up to a new high. That kind of fits better and is more, falls closer into our rules, so to speak. But anytime you get an overshoot, sometimes you don't get a retest. But when the market's this strong, it's rare that, it's not uncommon that it'll turn and start selling off just as fast, but it's very uncommon for it not to have a retest. And so that leads me to believe that maybe I got it right here now instead of the way I did have it, because that does give you a break of the trend line here, and that's after they open, and you actually get some breaks in here, and then the retest, and then the sell-off. So that makes a lot more sense. So I really think that's more realistic the way I got it drawn there. So I'm trying to get through with this early, and I haven't talked about the first trade. But here's your first trade. Even if you drew it like this, that's the first break of the trend line. This is a great setup to go long. This you had 3 tries to go lower. You might even try to get long on a limit order there. Don't know if you'd have gotten filled or not. But definitely right here, or even probably on this other one. And you see it took off. And you might have considered, if you had your trend line drawn like this, you might have considered entering right here. And that's just a breakout pullback long, because we broke above the double bottom, or double top from yesterday. So that makes that a breakout pullback long. So I'm going to go ahead, just in case some of you took it, I'm going to circle that. I'm going to circle that one in green, because it does, it's a little bit risky. But what happens, let me explain this again. What happens is people see this happen yesterday, and they were trying to buy up here all day yesterday, and at the end of the day they watched my video and they said, oh, I should have been selling, or they were trying to sell down here all day long, and when they should have been buying. And they watch my video and they see, and they say, well, next time that happens, I'm going to be prepared. And so then you come over here today, and the price action, it's pretty obvious that's a trend, but you're thinking, hey, we're going to come up here. Yesterday I tried to buy up here. I'm not going to be so dumb today. I'm going to sell up here. And they sell right here, and guess what? They're wrong, and it's a trend, and it keeps going. You've got to be able to recognize the difference between a trading range, and you can't get tricked. What the market will do is it'll do something just long enough to get you used to it and watching for it, and then it switches on you. And you see what it did early in the overnight. It broke lower down here and failed, and it trapped all those people just like it did these other times, and it reversed. And so then they're all looking for it to fail up here, and it breaks out up here, and they all get short, and guess what? It goes higher, and this is them all exiting, thinking it can't go any higher. A few of them are hanging on a little longer. It can't go any higher, and then suddenly it gets way up here, and they all give up. And that's, they're running their stops right there. They all give up, and they start exiting. And just about the time they do, guess what? Then that's the end of it, and it all sells off. And you just can't get caught up in that. If you're wrong, don't hang on. Don't wait till up here to get out when it's almost over. If you're wrong, cut your losses short and look for another entry. Reevaluate, because obviously you got something wrong, and really the original point was don't get caught up thinking about what happened yesterday or the day before. Just go with what it's doing today, because it can change in the blink of an eye, just like it did today. And this was a strong trend, and just like as strong as that trend was, then all of a sudden you got one that was selling off even faster. And it took almost every bit of that. It really took the whole day back, tested that area again, and then tried to go higher again. And, why it decides to do things like that, it doesn't matter. Don't even try to guess why it's doing that, because all that does is confuse you, upset you, make you mad at the market. And then that brings in emotions. And when you bring in your emotions into trading, you're going to lose money. You got to be like a machine. You got to say, hey, the market's going up, it's trending up, I got to get on with the trend, or the market's trending down, I got to get short with the trend. And that's the only thing you need to be thinking. Or the market's in a range, it's not doing anything, I'm sitting tight till it does something. And so let's talk about the trades, because I'm 10 minutes into this and I haven't got through. Hopefully everybody understands why you took that long right there. Pretty straightforward. First real break of the trend line. It doesn't matter how you drew it, even if you drew it down here. It's the first touch of the trend line then. But again, I'm really thinking that's it there now. Nice place to get long. Do we know it's going to go way up here and do this? No. But, that's why we hang on. Any runners were easily safe here. I'll be honest with you, I didn't get all of this up here. I exited. I exited when we broke above it on that little bitty doji right there, because usually that's a sign that it's about to reverse. So I got a lot of it. But I didn't get all of it. I could have ridden this all the way to 98, and I exited somewhere in here around 96. So I lost the last 2 points. But I'll take that move every day on a runner, every day, because that almost made my whole day right there. And then you've got this pullback right here, this little correction. I like this entry because, again, it's along the trend line, but it's a failed second entry short, and it's a little bitty doji, a chance to get long right there, with plenty of room to scalp out before these highs. And you see it struggled to keep going higher, and it came back real quick and got the runners on that entry right there. So no runners there. And but then there's another chance to get long right here, and you got to be thinking, hey, if this is one leg up, we may get another leg like that. And you can see there's your first leg, and then you got this. That's really a two-legged correction back to the EMA. And you had this little matching lows, and it broke lower, and that's a reversal bar. You can't ignore that. But there's your first leg, and then there's your second leg, and you see it went a few ticks higher, not many, and then it started selling off. You don't want to be selling this yet. You really need to get an established trend line, and I felt it was down here before you really could establish this line. And what I did was, a lot of times you don't know whether to get it off the highs or the closes, but if you do this one off the highs, it's almost too flat. It's not the right angle, and you can't account for why all these lines are doing like this. So if you get it off the closes right there, and you can see that came into play all the way down after I drew it off those closes right there, and that's a failed second entry long right there that reversed. So a good place to go short. It's also kind of a breakout pullback short. You got another chance right here. It didn't quite get to the trend line, but you got this. I didn't put my line on here. And it always helps to put your lines on there. But you can see those closes right there. That's a nice breakout pullback short. It's a little bit risky because we've come down so far without really any correction. But if you've got your trend line right, you understand why there's not much correction. And so that one fits our rules. If you took it, I put it in green because it is a little bit risky. And the market just couldn't correct. And we actually corrected right here. This is actually a kind of a little two-legged pull back to the EMA, to the trend line. Another chance. You got a double top here, one tick above it, so a failed break. Nice place to get short. And then boom, another nice move down. And then we corrected. And this was really the first break of that trend line. So it'd be really hard to ignore trying to get short right here, but there's not a good setup on my chart. I drew this in green for a couple of reasons. One, because it's not a great short, because there's not a good setup here. You got two overlapping bars. This one was a doji. But when the market's this weak, a two-legged pullback to the EMA is almost a gimme. These things very rarely, if ever, fail. And this one failed. So, I mean, that's telling you something right there. And so this is a long right here for certain, because this is a two-legged correction in a downtrending market. It's a failed second entry short, one that hardly ever fails, and it failed. So that's a trap. There's definitely going to be a lot of people trapped, and you can see how that rocketed up there and ran a bunch of stops as all these people exited, all the shorts started exiting. And I believe that's why we had such a big correction here, is because all these people were unwinding. And notice that there was never a retest up here. And that's another part of what that is right there. This is a retest of those lows right there, and this breakout pullback short. We never really tested that. But let me show you something else too. In return, notice when we broke above this double top up here that we never, let me just move the line down here. There's your double top. We broke above. Notice how we never pulled back to test that. That's part of what this sell-off was, and they just happened to take it. They caught so many people off guard. You can see that right there. And they took it lower, and a lot of people probably were buying right in here on this retest, found out they got tricked, and they ran it down, and they're running all the stops, and you see it suddenly burst down with a quick burst of speed again. And that's what causes that, is all those people exiting and getting trapped. So anyway, this is prices coming back to retest this. Prices are going to retest these areas, and you know, usually they don't go this far. Usually they pull right back and test it and then go. So when you get a big move, it takes a big correction to come back and test it. But it's almost always just like it came back here and tested this area. It fought its way back. And that's why once you get one big move in the day, that's why you get another one, because the market's having to flip-flop and fight to test these areas, and they're going to be tested. And so that's important to know. But anyway, I circled this one in green because it's not a good short setup. But, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was very tempted to take it myself, but I wasn't trading yet. But you can't hardly ignore a two-legged pullback. A lot of times I'll be done for the day, and I'll see a setup like that, and I'll take it every time just because I know it works 9.9, you know, 9 times out of 10 anyway. And they rarely fail. And there's all kind of reasons to be thinking short, even though there's not a real good setup there. So if you got trapped and this bar ends like that, I'd say exit, just because it shouldn't end like that. This thing should have sold on off, and you should have been getting another leg like this. And when you didn't, that's not a good sign. That's at least a sign that we're going to go back and maybe test this breakout area again, or test these highs. And it's not worth trying to ride that out and then hoping later it comes back like it is here. And because sometimes it don't come back. You know, if you know for sure it's going to come back, yeah, you can ride that out. But you know what happens? Most of the time it doesn't come back. If you ride it out, it won't come back. And if you don't ride it out, it'll come back every time. And don't ask me why, but that's the laws of trading the market. You know, it never does what you think it's going to do. And that's why most people are getting long up here when they need to be getting short, and getting, short down here where they need to be getting long and so forth, just like we talked about yesterday. And some people made some comments, and said, hey, I was trying to do exactly that. They were trying to get long up here, and they were trying to get short down here. And you just can't do that. You gotta be patient. If you miss the trade, you gotta wait on it to come back again, and to get a better entry. So, but this one was interesting right here, because this trade very rarely, if ever, fails, and it failed for sure right here. And I have no reason to account for it other than the market was overdone. And that's another reason. When you get a move that steep, especially after it's been trending up all day, and then suddenly it doesn't generally go back down all the way. You're gonna get whiplashed a lot. And so you just got to be careful. And the further down this thing goes, Just like the further up this one goes, the more risky it is getting long up here. So you gotta follow the rules, but that's just the problem here. If you follow the rules say you're still looking for a short, and so you could have gotten tricked right there. And basically what I'm saying is if you got tricked right there and you saw this bar in opening on its very low and closing on its very high, something isn't right. Maybe that's good enough for the retest. There's a break of the trend line. It pulled back and there's a retest, and that's all you're going to get maybe. So just exit that trade. You know, if you got to get out at break even, get out at break even, but just get out of that trade. If you got to lose a tick or two, get out of that trade, because if it turns back down, you can always add back on again. And and definitely if you saw the failed second entry here, you know there's a trap and there's going to be a lot of trap shorts. So I probably should have put two circles, but I knew they would interfere. I would say this long is actually a blue long, and you know you wanted to take that trade because we had the pull back in the retest, and we had a break of the trend line and kind of a retest. There was a trap, the main reason being that trap on a trade that rarely, if ever, fails. That's a good reason to know that you're probably going to at least get a scalp, because they're going to run those stops. So, and by that time, that there's not really any more decent setups here. It's too late in the day. And this is another reason I like to be done by this time of the day. I try to make all my money before lunchtime, and I want to be done by lunchtime because I don't want to be late in the afternoon fighting, second guessing myself. Because if you have a losing trade over here, you got time to make it back. If you wait till late in the evening and you have a losing trade, you don't have time to make it back, and you get caught. So don't let that happen to you. Try to make the best moves are always in the morning. Generally, you'll see some good afternoon moves, but I like to be just eyeballing it and watching it for the fun of it and not having any skin in the game late in the afternoon. So people will, I got some emails, where did you enter coming down through here? There were a couple of places to enter, but for the most part, I was done by then. So I wasn't, I don't want to be looking to enter here. I want to be done. I definitely don't want to be entering over in here. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.